pay from here. Thanks for joining us. This webinar is brought to you by Justice Matters. We are a California-based nonprofit, and we are dedicated to education policy rooted in community vision. We're lucky we have a large audience today. My name is Amina Lukman Dawson, and I'll be your host for the webinar. In just a few minutes, we're going to go live online video, and I'll introduce our panelists at South Valley Academy in Albuquerque, New Mexico. We have about 50 minutes, it looks like here, and I'll begin with some brief introductory comments, then we'll turn it right over to South Valley. After that, we'll have a brief facilitated discussion, and finally, we'll end with Q&A. We hope that you'll forward your questions to us for that portion. Although we may not be able to respond to all of them, we'll do our best. Okay, Schools That Rock. Schools That Rock is an online discussion and learning space. Our goal is to really highlight transformative practices. These practices are being successfully used in schools serving largely students of color from traditionally underserved communities. That's where we concentrate. For Justice Matters, transformative practices emphasize social and racial justice ideals. These are the places where they value culture, community, and experiences students of color bring to the classroom. All too often, those experiences can be viewed from a deficit model. Well, to the contrary, these practices focus on those experiences of students of color as essential places to begin learning. They really go beyond the test scores, improving the test scores. The Schools That Rock series allows us to hear from educators and community members on the ground creating and implementing these practices. These schools work hard, as I'm sure you all know, and they face great challenges in attempting to do good work. Our hope is that when viewed collectively, this Schools That Rock series of webinars will really inform ways that we can transform education for students of color in underserved communities. So all taken all together, we hope we can learn something and hope that we can create a discussion that policymakers and others that think about these issues can learn from as well. Okay. Challenges for students of color face. Students of color from traditionally underserved communities can often face a myriad of challenges. Their communities can face socio and economic issues that can leave students disempowered in complex ways. These larger forces can be difficult to understand and may feel beyond their power to address. Moreover, too often traditional learning environments can sidestep or just avoid or gloss over the students' personal and community experiences. And so for Justice Matters, it's exactly in these spaces that learning should take place. Now, service learning can play a valuable role in addressing these issues. Service learning models undergirded by ideals of social justice can really provide students the language to better understand the issues impacting them and the tools to address them. We view South Valley Academy as an important piece in learning how this works. So quite simply, we view South Valley Academy as a school that rocks. Though there are programs out there with similar pieces, South Valley Academy has a particularly effective blend of service learning elements. These elements result in traditional service learning goals being met. So those are things like helping students advance their career goals so they can learn about a particular profession where they're doing their service learning. And you'll hear some of that today from our students, but they can also result in empowering students of color to see themselves as change agents in their communities. So our goals today are twofold. One, for you to leave the discussion with an understanding of what South Valley Academy has created, and two, to provide an understanding of how service learning programs can help students of color from traditionally underserved communities better understand their lives and to feel more empowered. So here's South Valley Academy. Just quickly, South Valley Academy is located in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and was founded in 1999. It's a high school from grades 9 through 12. It's a charter school serving approximately 260 students. And now, though we think South Valley Academy rocks for their service learning program, they have also other great elements that help them make them a particularly healthy school for students of color. And that includes how democratically run their governance structure is and their really strong connections to their surrounding community. So now I'm going to turn it over to South Valley Academy so they can speak for themselves. Thank you so much for joining us, South Valley. I'll give it to you now, Kata.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody. We apologize for the delay. I hope I didn't scare Amina too much, but we got connected. So we're happy to be on this webinar. As Amina said, we are an APS, Albuquerque Public School charter school. We're a public school that this is our 13th year, and we're located in the South Valley, which is a section of Albuquerque that's low income and semi-rural, and it contains some of the poorest performing schools in the state. We are expanding to include a middle school next year. We will start with 6th grade only until we eventually serve grades 6 through 12, and we'll serve a total of about 500 students. And our mission is very simple. It's to prepare every single student to enter college. 98% of our students are Hispanic, the vast majority of whom are children of Mexican immigrants. And they, by and large, are the first in their family to attend college. 90% of our students are ELLs. They speak Spanish as their first language. And 93% of our students qualify for free or reduced lunch. As many of you may know, New Mexico is one of the poorest states in the nation. About 20% of our students have an IEP, and about 20% are undocumented. And that has posed a challenge for us as we prepare our students to pursue secondary education. And our success rate over the last 13 years or so is about 95% of our graduates enter college. We're in the process of tracking when they matriculate and also when they actually earn a degree. So that's our data challenge as we continue in our journey and our work. And in terms of the program, I'm really excited to have some alumni here, a community partner, and my administrative colleague, Justin Traeger, who really created the program. When we hired him, I don't even know how many years ago, my co-founder and I really, as we were designing the workday, needed to have students away from campus for a good chunk of time so that teachers could plan, collaborate, and do professional development. And I think we even told Justin, just find a place for them. But within the context of the desire that I in particular had, I told my co-founder, if we're going to start a school where students go to college, I wanted them to have a conciencia. And that meant that they began to see themselves as a resource for their family and their community, that they were conscious about the place that they came from, the conditions under which they came, and that they really became agents of change. At that point in time, I had never even heard the term service learning, and it was really Justin who came in and created the program with that vision.
Thank you so much, Kata, for that. Now we're going to turn it over to Justin. Now we have Justin Traeger. He is, as Kata mentioned, Director of Student Support. And Justin, as she said, played an active role in developing the service learning program. He'll delve into what the program looks like in each year and then discuss elements of their senior seminar and senior action project. Justin, welcome. Thanks so much for joining us.
Oh, thanks. Thanks for having us. So after a couple of years of students, I guess basically we should start off by saying that we have a graduated model by grade level, and it's basically a placement model, which is different from some other service models where it's integrated into specific projects or integrated into specific classes. So basically every Thursday afternoon at 12 o'clock, 5 buses pull up to our school parking lot and bus 180 students in 5 different directions into various community placements. The freshman year starts with students placed at elementary schools. We learned after a couple of years that going out in the community and being a role model and being someone who contributes is very different for a lot of 14, 15-year-old kids from the South Valley, and that the elementary schools provided a nice, safe, structured environment that they were familiar with, but also provided a clear way for them to give back in a very concrete way to do that. Many students go back to elementary schools they went to. Many students actually work with teachers, some of their former teachers. The sophomore year, after they kind of get some familiarity with going out and serving in the community, the sophomore year moves on to nonprofits. We work with a variety of nonprofits dealing with health and other economic issues, educational institutions, and students are placed there. Originally, we started focusing on what their interest was. What you care more about, homelessness or healthcare or museums, and then we realized that it's really important to match them based on their skill set, what they like doing, whether they're doing administrative work or working with people, so that they feel comfortable and they view themselves as assets and it's clear on how they're contributing. And there's assignments, there's academic assignments, and in the sophomore years It's like, what is your role in community? What is the role of nonprofits in community? What role do they play in making community? I think we also just have them define community during the sophomore year. The junior year technically sometimes is not service learning in the pure sense, and we had an argument about that in my interview, I think, is that it's really about careers. It's about taking that next step. Now that you've been out there, we want to connect. We want students to have a vision for themselves beyond high school. We want them to have a reason to go to college. And so we provide experiences for them based on their career interests. And what's really different about this year is instead of giving them a placement or working with them to make a match for a placement, students have to create their own placement. The first quarter, they spend time doing interest inventories, they write a resume, they practice interview skills, they learn how to network on the phone, they call, they set up their place, they set up interviews, and they secure a placement, which they then work for the entire year. And then by the end of that year, they also have to work with their supervisor on a goals project where they specifically set a goal of what they're going to achieve for their site and follow through on that. And that's important because it kind of scaffolds into the senior year. The senior year, and I'm not sure how much detail you want me to get into this, I mean, I'll just do the brief one, is our senior project. And basically, this is not a placement based. This is very much students looking at their community and understanding it, and then being leaders in the community. I often say to students the first day of school that in order to graduate from South Valley Academy, you have to change the world. Because this is our senior project, and it's a graduation requirement, so you have to do it. What I often like to clarify when my students really get stressed is that we're not so concerned about the change they make in that year, although some of the changes are amazing. It's more that they learn the process. What we more care about is that they know the process for making change and being leaders and agents of change in the community, so that when they're older, when as independent adults, when they see things that are unjust or that are not right, they know the process for making change. And so ultimately, we hold them accountable for going through the process and demonstrating awareness of it, not that they actually truly made this amazing transformative change in our community.
Thank
Is that
you
good?
so much. That's great. Thank you so much, Justin. Okay, now we'll move on to Beva Sanchez Padilla. Beva is the manager of the Gutierrez Hubble House, and Beva is a community partner working with South Valley Academy students. She runs a unique museum that is really steeped in the history of the local community. Thanks so much for being here with us, Beva. You can go ahead.
Thank you, Amina. Thank you to South Valley Academy. I'm a manager of a site that receives the service learning students. So we just totally benefit from the success of this school. The Gutierrez Hubble House is a museum, a 6,000 square foot museum, 160 years old, recently renovated, and we are on 10 acres of county-owned agriculture property. We're really kind of novices in the arena of museums, so when students do come to us, and this is actually the third year we've been lucky enough to receive South Valley Academy students, I kind of try to figure out where their interest lies, even though the breadth of activities that they can do there, since I am the only official employee of this nonprofit that manages this 10 acres. I will ask them what they're interested in doing, but it actually all comes down to the fact that since I'm the only employee, even though we work with several partners, New Mexico State University Agriculture Extension Program, Bernalillo County, we have AmeriCorps volunteers, so there are many people around, and it's just kind of up to me to juggle the balls. And I have told them that we may have a defined program for them, but sometimes when they come, they're going to have to go with the flow and actually serve as an intern. And I, like Gata, had never heard of a service learning program, and that's what used to be called internships, I think, a few years back, because I'm a little older than a few of the people here. Managing a museum and 10 acres of agriculture property is a challenge. We are along the historic road called El Camino Real. It is one of the oldest, if not the oldest roads that starts in Mexico City, goes all the way up past our capital, Santa Fe here. It goes up to Owinge, Native American Pueblo, originally San Juan Pueblo de los Caballeros, and before that it was Okeowinge. So we are in New Mexico here with a different sense of history. Like I said, this is the third year we have had students. I'm not sure if I should talk about this, but in our pre-interview, I think it is of significance. The first two students that I was able to work with were, just as the other four I've been working with, were remarkable. We began doing research. We went to the New Mexico State Archives. We pulled out a document where, in fact, they were able to discover the fact that there were 19 servant families on this property prior to James Lawrence Hubble coming to the United States about the time we became a territory. It was decided at that point that we would start a program called History Alive. I brought my cameras along, and they were instrumental at beginning a program that we are still involved at solidifying and sustaining. And we were recently given a $500,000 grant that will incorporate this History Alive program. So we are collecting stories of the descendants of those 19 servant families who 160 years ago were living on that property, because the descendants of those families are still here. So it's sort of a very exciting time to be doing research. And as everyone knows, history is very contentious. I'm absolutely amazed at the sense of social justice savvy these students have. I have quite a bit of experience in teaching. Most all of it is in San Antonio, Texas, where the communities are different but the same. Again, we are in a rural community here. So actually we have lots of needs at our museum, at our agricultural space. However, these students just come in with a very strong sense of what justice should be, and a sense of process, a sense of problem solving that I don't think I picked up till I had my second job, I think, growing up. So I know it kind of sounds like I'm a Pollyanna, but having had experience in the teaching world, I can really say that this is a school that rocks, because the students do. You had asked me to kind of observe and talk about what makes the program work, and I don't know, Amina, if I should talk about that now. I have other high schools call me up and ask to place their service learning students, and there never seems to be a follow-up. It's a fresh kind of program here. The students come with questions to be answered every week, with plans, and those aren't just rote kind of questions, you know, like, okay, we've got to answer the questions at the end of our service learning day. They're always different questions. So I know that the adults or the supervisors kind of behind the scenes are very aware that you can have a schematic, you can have a plan, but once you get on a site, new things happen, and how do you adjust to that? The students seem to be aware of the fact that sometimes we've got to kind of change the way we're getting a certain place. So I would have to say that it's the people that are making this program work.
Wonderful. Yeah, appreciate it.
And I could go on and on, but yeah, I think that, did I say enough? Did I do, like Justin said, did I do good? Did I say? But I'm really honored to be here and to be part of this project.
Thank you so much, Beva. I'm so glad, and that's one thing about this topic and talking to each of you all, is you all said we've been speaking about this for a while, and that you all have just a wealth of information. And as our discussion goes on, we'll pull out even more. I'm gonna have you again, Beva. So that'd be great. Thank you very much. And so next we'll go to Norema Ornelas. And Norema is a student of nursing at University of Mexico. She is a 2012 graduate of South Valley Academy. And while at South Valley, she did her senior action project on bullying. Welcome, Norema. So glad to have you. Go ahead.
Thank you, Amina. It's so good to be here. Well, like you said, I was a 2012 graduate. I'm at UNL planning to major in nursing. And for my service learning years, as a freshman, I started off at an elementary school where I got to basically work with like third graders and just help them with easy math and paragraph writing. simple skills. My sophomore year, I actually was allowed to continue my volunteering at UNMH, the University of New Mexico Hospital. I actually got into that program because my grandmother is a housekeeper there, and she still is right now. She told me that they were accepting volunteer applications for the summer. So I put one in, and they called me. I had to do an orientation, and I got to work in pediatric surgery and recovery, where I was allowed to learn receptionist skills, and I got to work with patients as well, like getting to know kids before they were going into surgery, and working with nurses and other staffs from the surgery rooms. And then my junior year, I continued again, but I did a different program at UNMH, and it was called the Nurse Diversity Pipeline, where basically I was working more with like shadowing a nurse, and I we basically it was a program with like 5 or 6 students from my class, and what we did there, we took like different classes, like taking CPR, first aid, learning about the heart, how it functions, different types of things. We got to learn so many things, and then we had presentations from different doctors, different nurses, different coordinators that were in charge of like teaching these nurses and these doctors when they came to like getting their license for CPR, stuff like that. And then our senior action project, I picked bullying because it was a personal topic for me, because when I was in middle school, I went through bullying, and when I first entered high school, I felt that I became the bully. So I got to view both sides, and it was like something personal to me, and that was mainly why I picked it, because they tell you here to make sure that you pick something you're passionate about, and that was the first thing that came to my mind. Through your senior action project, you do learn a lot, like not only about your project, but you learn a lot about yourself and your community. Um, in my senior action project, like it's not just about learning to have a voice through the senior seminar class. It's not just learning how to have a voice, but you have to learn how to use it. And like Traeger said, it's not just about going out there and changing the world. You have to do a lot of research. You have to investigate, interview people about your topic, and you have to find out what you can do and how you can bring it out to your community. And what mine was basically was doing presentations for middle school students. And at first I was a little nervous, like I had mentioned to you, because I was scared that I wasn't going to have enough interview or presentations, or schools weren't going to allow me to present at their school. And my first presentation was here at our school when we had our health fair, and through that, like a lot of schools that were walking around asked me if I could present at their school, which was great. It helped me a lot. It built up my self-esteem and said I have to go out there and find more presentations. And I actually got to volunteer at the school that I attend for middle school, and where I basically went through my bullying years. And I got to present to a whole class of 7th graders. I had around 5 or 6 presentations that day for different classes. I carried out activities that had to do with bullying and understanding other people's, um, everybody's differences, and how to cope with people that are different from each other. I had brochures that I made myself, and I had a PowerPoint where I just talked to students and told them the effects of what bullying can cause onto their peers, and it was great results. Um, I learned through my project, I learned that I can make a difference, even if I'm just one person, that I can actually make a difference through my personal topic. Because I had an incident where in one of my presentations, one of the students started crying because she was going through bullying, and I made her, like, through my presentation and my experience, I helped her speak up and let her know that there's help out there, that the school is willing to listen if you just speak up. And it was just great. I mean, the class, the whole senior action project is great, just because it teaches you so much, and it makes you find out of things you didn't know that you had in yourself. I mean, in our class, it was great. We became like this our own little family, where if one of us had a problem, we could go to each other, or we could go to the whole class and talk to one another of how we could better ourselves, how we could better our our projects, and we became this whole family, and we built our own confidence out of each other, and it was a great learning experience, and I would recommend it to any other student.
Oh, Norema, thank you very much. I appreciate that. And now we're going to go to Nora Ontiveros. Nora is a
Hi.
college student as well at University of New Mexico, and she's also an alum of South Valley Academy. Now, while at South Valley, she did her senior action project on women's body image and eating disorders. Go ahead, Nora. Welcome.
Hi, Amina. Thank you very much. Yeah, as you said, my name is Noran Tiveros. I am from originally from California. I came here when I was small, but I graduated here from 2011, and I am a sophomore at University of New Mexico now. And I am going into my health careers and double majoring in Spanish. And as Traeger was saying, my freshman year here at Salvador Academy, we had to go to elementary schools. I went to Mountain View Elementary School, which was my okay. It was my elementary school that I attended here when I came, and I got to go back to it for my senior service learning here Savale Academy, and I taught fifth graders. I usually had a small group. The teacher gave me a small group of students that were having trouble with their reading or math, and I set them aside in the classroom and helped them with their reading and math. That's what I did in my service learning for my freshman year. For my sophomore year, I got go into a nonprofit organization, which was Baralas Community Development, which was I did administrative work. They did it was a corporation for the Baralas community because Baralas is a really old town here in New Mexico, and they wanted to build it up because it's one of the oldest town here in New Mexico also, and they petitioned grants to the governor, and they wanted grants to hire workers to build up the Barelas community. So I experienced that process, what they did, how they brought up the Barelas. My supervisor took me to some of the houses that they had in the Barelas community and how run down they were and why they wanted to build them up to have that Barelas community here in New Mexico also because it's one of the most oldest. My junior in service learning, I went to Presbyterian Hospital. I chose that because that's the career path I wanted to take, and I'm still going through that. I went to the Presbyterian Hospital. My supervisor was one of the social workers there, and we were in the pediatric intensive care unit and the neonatal intensive care unit. So I helped the nurses. I took care of some of the patients if they could get out of the rooms. I could go out into the playground, take them if so they won't be too clustered in their rooms and have a little fresh air if they could go out. I would help them with that, just have them have what they need. Also in the neonatal intensive care, we carried the babies if they needed the body to body warmth. Some of them needed it. We just went over there if they needed any help and all the stuff that we can help out in the Presbyterian Hospital. And for my senior action project, Traeger was my senior seminar teacher also, and I loved seniors. And this is where the crucial part. I was also really passionate about health, but now with Traeger, I wanted, it was passionate about social justice. So to create a senior action project that connected both, I started brainstorming what connected both. I mean, I love health, but I love the social justice theme also. So I created my senior action project that was how the self-esteem of women can lead to eating disorders and how the media affects that. So that's what my senior action project was, and um, so that's how I connected both my passion for health and my passion for social justice. So the media is a big role in here, and our values and the community is a big role, and I created my project from that. So what I did was did my research, found what the problem was, and I found that the problem was the media because it was saying it was creating this image that the beautiful image of a woman was thin. So my solution was to create new media that was real and not media or disordered in any way that the media does. And that's what my solution was going to be. So I also did presentations with my community partner, which was Rosie. We went out to middle schools. We went out to elementary schools. We created our own little group also in an elementary school that they helped us do presentations throughout other elementary schools called Pink Ella, and we also did, since my research showed that the most affected was college women because they are more independent and more uh, vulnerable during those ages of the media images and how that impacted their values. I went to the Women's Research Center at the University of New Mexico, and they were great help there. They got me connected with people there, got me a room so I can present to college women. I created a fashion show with my friends, and they could wear whatever they want, they could say whatever they want. They quoted some stuff that the media said about them, and then ended my presentation there like that. And they helped me. I created my own media also with real images of women and what an ideal image of women was, and I hung them up all over the University of New Mexico. And I got also classmates from older here from Salvador Academy to hang them at New Mexico State University in Highlands also. So I went through all that so college women could get that real image of women, and I hung it up there, and they helped me get out the word for my presentation at the university. So that was my project. Also, I created since my research also stated that here in New Mexico there weren't many health programs for people that had anorexia or bulimia. So we created a talk group at the University of New Mexico also that is still in place there at the New Center. And they have talk groups with people that have body dissatisfaction or body just worried about their body. And also that's what I did for my project, and it really helped me having Traeger helped me know what racism was, what the status quo was here, how that really affected the values of people, and how the media has a big role in it also. So this experience gave me the habits and skills to really know how to go out there and research and do networking and have that ability to do what you need to do in order to have social justice, and part also having another passion like for me, health. So both of those stuff go hand in hand, and leadership, initiative, and teamwork also comes in that.
What up?
Cool. We can't hear anything, Amina.
Hello?
Hi.
Amina?
Hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, now we can.
Okay. So I was just saying it sounds like that's a great segue into a question I had about the senior seminar experience. It sounds as though that's where the meat of your social justice approach begins. And tell me if that's true, and in what way can you talk about sort of leading the students to finding out what they feel are the most important issues, introducing them to social justice concepts, and what impact that might have on their projects?
Sure, I think that's me. Initially, it was more of a constructivist approach in terms of just students looking at the community and wanting to care about it from a kind of a foundation in participatory democracy. But about a few years ago, Dr. Dawn Strassner, who is now the Service Learning Department chair, and to give her dues was Noraima's teacher, was Nora's, decided that we need to have some social justice theory in the curriculum. And this is the first time outside of just part of our curriculum. Our curriculum from all years talks about justice and analyzing things with a critical eye, where we really use the readings for social justice book that you guys might be familiar with, and had students critical reading skills. It was actually a foundation of an academic thing where they really need to practice college level reading. But that's where we really introduced our primary themes of social justice, which I won't put them on the spot, but they should be able to name them off the top of their heads. But prejudice, discrimination, domination, subordination, the cycle of socialization, the cycle of liberation, self-identity, and social inequality. Those are the major themes that our students, through these readings, really dissect and really try and understand and use those as a lens for looking at their community and really understanding how things happen. And I have some debate with actually one of my colleagues here, but one of the students even said it before we came on air, is it's a tool for really looking at the community. So they don't feel like they're a victim. It's like you can look at things and say, oh, that's always a problem, or we're always victims because we're brown or we're poor or whatever. But really, it's a foundation for understanding what is happening and why. And when you start with that foundation, then you can find solutions. And that's what we push our students on the senior project, is they need to, as you probably could tell, they know the research. These two young women are always citing what the research showed and use the research to develop actions. And it wasn't just the research about what's happening, but also their understanding of, for Nora, the psychosocialization on women, and similar, actually, the psychosocialization for Naraima. So using those two things as a foundation for developing projects. Nina, you also wanted me to talk about the process for choosing an issue, and Naraima talked about that. It's choose something you're passionate about. It is something that we often say is don't choose something that's, because if you're not interested in it, you're just not going to do it. It's very much an independent project, and students really have to, on their own, it's not like you say, this part is due today and this part is due Friday. They really develop their own action steps to implement them. So we take them through a very slow and deliberate process of multiple weeks from the start to the end of choosing an issue, and I think that's also one of the strengths, because students know why they chose their issue. They really care about the issue, and they're motivated to do something about it. And it turns out that many of them choose things that they personally dealt with or have friends or family deal with. Through this process, they decide that they can be empowered instead of being victims. They can say, well, this has happened to me, my family, and I can do something about it. Briefly, that process starts off with a brainstorm. You start with your own experience. I just talked about things they see in the community that aren't so great, that we can do something about. Then they're required to interview people. That happens at the dinner table. It happens at advisory. They interview the students. What's going on? What do you think we can change in our community? They have to look at the media. They have to read the paper. They have to watch TV, go on the internet, find more issues, bring them back. And then we create these huge lists of like 100 different things and students look at. And then we also give models. In class, they read about students who have changed issues, so they can kind of learn about issues. Me and Dr. Streisner will bring in an article of something, a current events happening that we really think is important for them to be aware of. So we open it up into this huge issues, and then we slowly break it down and narrow it, where we give them the tools for analyzing issues, whether it be looking at impacts or how widespread it is, or do they have a personal connection, or is it something that they can change. And so from there, we literally go from 4 to 3 to 2 to 1, where they actually have to commit to choosing one issue and specifically using evidence to explain to us why that would be a good issue for their project.
Thanks a lot, so much, Justin. Another thing I'm curious about, and perhaps you all could speak to this, is you touched on this, is the way that the personal experience really gets projected into the projects that you all do. Can you talk a little bit about what that can look like sometimes, some examples of that for students, and how they actually might sort of see themselves in their work?
Sure, I'll give a couple. Nina. Sorry, that was loud. This past spring, there was a student who did her senior action project about domestic violence. And I wasn't part of the entire process. I just get to see the exhibitions where at the end of this process, students have to give a formal 20-minute, 30-minute exhibition in front of their peers, in front of their teachers, often their family, their community partners, and younger students so they can serve as models. And Adriana is a very quiet student, extremely quiet, painfully shy. And she stood up and talked about her experience of being a child, her mother locking her and her siblings in the closet so that when their dad came home drunk, he would only beat mom and not them. And she's sharing this at her exhibition and then goes on to talk about domestic violence, its connection to addiction, and ultimately how She understood why her mother left her dad, and she then organized moms in the trailer park where she lives, and they did house meetings. She and her mom did house meetings with these other women in the trailer park to let them know that domestic violence exists. It's not okay. It's against the law, and here are the resources for you. It was amazing. And for a student as, like I said, painfully shy and as quiet as Adriana was, that's an example of how transformative this experience can be for our students. She moved from a place of, I'm a victim, this happened to me as a child, to now I'm doing something about it. And it really is, for me, the part of the work we do with our students that transcends that accident of birth, right? You don't get to choose who you're born to or under what circumstances, but we certainly can choose what we do with what we have.
Thank you so much. That's really great. I'm sorry, did I interrupt someone else who was going to chime in on that? Okay.
No, you're good.
Okay. I'm curious about the way in which when you all think of yourselves in service learning, the service learning project you're doing, and how service learning, there can be a perception that it's really the privileged serving the needy, and it indicates a bit of a separation between the student and the community. How might you really kind of depart from that criticism? Do you feel that separation as much, or yes? Can you just talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think gosh, I don't know where to start. Obviously, for us, service learning is a tool of empowerment. Service learning, just even that is my background before I came here, and it's effective pedagogy. It's a good way of kind of infusing experiential learning and accessing core skills. For me, it's just good practice. But at South Valley Academy, I think you're right that some of the assumptions is service is about charity and giving back. And even though I didn't necessarily know what I was creating here at South Valley Academy with the senior project, for me it was always rooted in participatory democracy as a student of politics and government, is that it never, kind of in your introduction of Gen schools, we're looking at assets. We're not looking at deficits. We're not looking at problems. We're looking at, there's so many assets and there's so many ways to make change. So I think that there are a number of other schools that do use service learning as an empowerment model, but I do feel that you're right. There is this kind of stigma of the word of service and community service as really as a service of giving to others and a selflessness. And I think that didn't realize it, but that is not even on our radar. It's not one of our values. Service is a responsibility. It's a human responsibility about making change, and then ultimately service is about liberation. Service is about changing your own lives. And I won't tell my story, and I don't necessarily come from a background of poverty, but service was liberating for me in terms of my profession and my career goals by doing Vista and AmeriCorps, that I decided what I want to do, and I decided to work with young people in communities. So it's just, service is a powerful, empowering tool to transcend life, to transform lives, going back to Frere and Dewey and all that stuff.
Amina?
Oh, can you hear me? Hi, just for you all to know, we have a few minutes left. If you have a question or two to send in, please do so. In the meantime, I'm curious for you, Beva. I know we talked a moment about the way that South Valley approached you as a community member to do this work, and the communication or the difference you might have seen in working as a community partner with them, and what sort of made it work for you in working with South Valley Academy. How might that how did that work for you? Their communication style and how it worked.
Well, first of all, I wanted to say that I was lucky. I'm going to ask Josh to put down the feedback. I, unlike Justin, cannot speak after I hear myself. He's a pretty skilled guy. Yeah, I was lucky enough 2.5 years ago when I came to manage this pretty big project. I happened to be living on the property also, to have the person who was working before me, who was a part-time, very young man, did have a couple of service learning excuse me, the students from South Valley Academy, and he showed me what they had done. And they had created a video that actually included the tour and the history of the property and the museum. And we have used that actually. I am an experienced teacher, so, and I've worked mostly in public school, as I had said earlier, in San Antonio, Texas. And what I find very interesting, and really what is part of the success I feel, is not only qualified teachers and teachers with passionate vision for social justice, but a clear understanding of the mechanics that are necessary to work with students in certain areas. We are situated in the South Valley, we being the museum itself. The per capita income that I was able to pick up a year and a half ago was $13,000 a year. So we are in a poor part of town. The fact that that is cognizant of that the students are cognizant of that, you know, teaching in the past, you kind of keep those kind of facts of racism, and if you bring it up, it's got to be kind of underground. But that's pretty much what's spoken about with the students. The students are very aware of issues like the DREAM Act or genetically modified organisms, and there's just this communication that happens between the supervisors and the students and the community organizations that get to benefit. That is continual and vital. It's not just a series of questions we got to answer at the end, but each week it seems to be a little different. Questions actually addressing any kind of problems that that happen while they're on the site. And I'm talking about problems of observing racism with docents. One of our docents came through and kept talking about how the original matriarch, a woman by the name of Julianita Gutierrez, who in 1850 met this man by the name of James Lawrence Hubble and created this dynasty. She kept bringing up, this one particular docent, that this woman was blonde and blue-eyed. And they came back to me with that comment. They said, why do you think she's stressing that? And it's hard to say, but again, we can probably fill in the blanks there. But that there's this vitality that exists. When the kids come, they bring with them a lot of respect. They know how to listen, and they know how to problem solve. And I don't know if I'm going where you kind of wanted me to go.
That was actually
what makes it happen is the communication that takes place between the organization that is able to receive the student and the school itself. I mean, it's a lot. I can get on the phone anytime and call anyone from South Valley Academy for anything. So I think it's that.
I have one question from
hello. Models for this.
Hello.
They just didn't do it themselves. There was quite a bit of research that took place to make this project so successful.
I'm sorry. We have run out of time, you all. I'm so sorry. And I've got quite a bit of questions here. I'm glad we've made this connection. I hope you all are able to connect with South Valley Academy as well and direct more questions to me. I'd be happy to try to get answers back to you. That one, we give us that we are part of the Justice and Education Network. And Justice Matters is continually looking to shine a light and bring together other schools like South Valley, and we've done so through the Justice and Education Network. And this is a national network with schools focused on transformative learning for students of color from traditionally underserved communities. They too value and respect the personal and cultural and community experiences of the students we're working with. We're always looking for more schools to join our network, so if you know of any, please feel free to forward that to me. Finally, I just want to say thanks so much to South Valley Academy for sharing today, being so insightful, and we hope you'll join us for our next installment of Schools That Rock, where we'll feature a different school, different practice, but the same dedication to serving students of color in transformative ways. This is Amina Lukman.